Palma. Thanks for tuning in. CJ Radune joining me as usual. How's it going, CJ?
It's good. Looking forward to Daytona and then getting the chase underway. So things are getting better than New Hampshire.
Yeah. We've actually said that the last couple of weeks, haven't we?
We have.
That the racing has actually been getting better, even though they're not perfect, but better than expected. So that's good. Even though Blaney, by the way, another win, we are now at $2,000 exactly in front. So we have a $2,000 head start now, which actually means we could lose every race the rest of the way and pretty much break even for the year.
That is correct.
So we've done our due for the year, but let's try to double our money over those last 11 races. Why don't we? And see what we could do. But anyway, Blaney's win. And here we go again. 2-tire stop, winning the race. And this has to be a signal now to the crew chiefs out there. They've got to start taking chances now. We have to start seeing this more and more. Because it just does not matter, not on every driver, but on some drivers. If you think your driver's having a pretty good day, don't worry. If you need a strategy change late to take 2 tires, do it.
Yeah, and it's largely going to depend on the track too. So I'm anxious to see how Toyota versus Ford shapes up when we get to the 1.5 mile ovals again. So we've got Kansas, Las Vegas, Charlotte yet coming up, and then obviously the finale at Homestead. Those places you should be able to pass at, should be a little bit easier. Toyota has been coming on gangbusters, and Team Penske in particular. 4 out of the last 6 races, I think that team has won, whereas it's been Toyota dominating this whole season. But the 2-tire stops have really been paying off at these shorter tracks where the aerodynamic advantage of being in front just keeps the cars behind. And I think we're going to see that certainly at Darlington, likely at the next 3 races, actually, from Darlington through Bristol, actually, before we get to the next 1.5 miles. So we'll see how that all works out. This week's a little bit different. You've got to navigate the draft, but I think after that, the first 3 races, you're right. The crew chiefs, absolutely, if they want to get a head start on the chase, need to start taking some chances.
Yeah, and we're pretty much now also in a situation regarding the playoffs where it's pretty much Preece is really the only one who has a realistic shot.
Yeah, there are technically 5 drivers fighting for the last 3 spots. It would take Brad Keselowski winning the race and likely winning a stage or 2 to get in. Ryan Preece is 31 points behind SVG, so depending upon where SVG finishes, Ryan Preece might only need to get into the top 10, top 15, something like that. If SVG is able to get some stage points and avoid any kind of early trouble, though, I think he's relatively safe.
Yeah, so let's see. I should probably, bottom line is it's and Keselowski, he has like no chance really, right?
He is 66 points behind the cut line, and the maximum points that you can get, which is winning both stages, getting the bonus point for fastest lap, and winning the race, is 76 points. So if any driver gets more than, if SVG gets more than 10 points, basically, Keselowski's done.
Okay. So he doesn't really have a shot.
Nope.
Okay. So give me the best case scenario for Preece.
Trying to jazz it up like TV does. Come on.
I know, but we're not going to
fighting for 3 places.
We're not going to lie to our audience. Come on now.
So best case scenario for who?
Preece. Give me he wins the race, and then tell me what has to happen exactly. And give me like a scenario.
If Preece wins the race, I put it this way: if SVG doesn't finish inside the top 20, then Preece makes it all the way to the finish.
Okay.
He's got a good chance of moving through.
Okay, that's not bad. Especially at Daytona.
Yep, absolutely.
Where you could wreck anytime. So, okay. Let's pop in the futures, and I can't imagine a whole lot has changed. Blaney's starting to move up there now at 5-1. Bell is moving down a little bit. So we had him at 9-1 in the last few weeks. Hopefully you grabbed him then. Reddick is starting to slip a little. Gibbs is moving up at 8-1. Logano is inching even closer at 14. But look at Larson now at 14. And Chase Briscoe is still 16-1. That's the bonus right there. And William Byron at 30-1. Man, I still think that he's worth it at the number because you don't have to put up big money. I wouldn't try to put big money on him to make big money. I would just say, hey, let's throw a few bucks on him just in case. But still, even like we saw last week, it's just just when it looked like he was starting to get some momentum going, bam, So yeah, I'm willing to give him a mulligan last week because that stuff is just not as freaky.
At least he was out there leading laps was what I was going to say, which is the first time we've seen William Byron, I think, do that for quite a while. He's been really, really quiet. When he's had a good day, it's been in the top 10, but he hasn't been leading laps. Conditions kind of helped him get there for sure, but he had a good qualifying effort as well. Wheel comes off, it's a problem. I think Chase Briscoe there right ahead of him, though, didn't have the greatest race last week, greatest finish, I should say, last week. He had a better race, I think, than what his finish gives him credit for. But Chase Briscoe looking pretty good. Joey Logano, those odds look pretty good to me as well.
Yeah, that was kind of weird last week with the weather, and I don't know. I mean, I understand what's going on, and I give them credit for trying to do anything to get out there. It is kind of silly, though, in a way. See the drivers driving on wet surfaces, and I get the tires, the wet tires and all that, but I don't know. I mean, are you okay with that? Or do you think they should have just unfortunately let everybody wait?
Last week, I think they should have let everybody wait at a shorter track like a North Wilkesboro, Richmond, or Martinsville. I think it's fine to go. Speeds are higher at New Hampshire. A lot more can go wrong there. It was a little bit artificial, and you saw the second it started drying out that the cars that were able to be out at the front immediately just dropped backwards like a rock, and they were hanging on to whatever positions they could by the time you got to the end of the first stage. So I think it was a little bit hokey. Certainly, I'm not going to complain about the fact that they got the race going and they got a number of laps done rather than waiting for a couple of hours. But I think it's really more those wet tires are really more suited to the flatter, shorter tracks as opposed to New Hampshire.
Okay, so we've got Daytona coming up now, and it's a Saturday night race, and it is the regular season finale. So a lot can happen, even though the playoff picture is pretty much set, as we've talked about. The winner earlier this year was Tyler Reddick, as we know, started his hot streak. He was 28-1 when he won the race in crazy fashion. He led one lap. That was the last lap. And really, a few things had to go his way. But he really did an incredible job to put himself in position to win the race. You give him credit for that. If you take a look at the manufacturer notes, in the last 11 races, Ford has 6 wins. Chevy has 5 wins. I'll say in the last 12, because Toyota's win by Reddick this year was the first Toyota win since the 2020 500 by Denny Hamlin. And again, it was a freaky way the way he won, but still, it wins a win. So keep that in mind, is that, Toyota has not had all sorts of luck. Maybe this is the beginning of them getting some luck because they've been good at these tracks this year. 6 of 9 next-gen winners started outside the top 10, including 11th, 18th, 20th, 21st, 26th, and 31st. The other 3 winners started 1st, 5th, and 5th. And so, yeah, anything that you could take at all from earlier this year, anything of note that you recall important?
Yeah, I remember the Fords being quite strong, just not being able to get the job done. Obviously, Ford has been surging with the recent wins, Team Penske in particular. They're always strong when it comes to drafting tracks. So I do think that Ford's going to be one to look out for here. Toyota, like you said, a little bit fluky, but they have been getting better at super speedways recently. This new body style suits them a lot more than the prior ones. So Toyota could certainly be dangerous as well. But the bigger thing, I think, is going to be the impact of the new rules. So we've got a shorter rear spoiler. We have less horsepower. So all of that is designed to help make the racing a little bit more aggressive, get out of the nose to tail fuel economy, boring middle portions of the race. So we might see a little bit more action than we have here in the past. And I think that getting out front with your teammates, which the Fords do really, really well, might be the way to go this week. So we'll see how it all plays out.
Okay, so expand on that just to remind everybody. So we've got changes at the Speedway, and what were the? Why do you think? And is there do you look at the changes as an advantage to say Ford, or not necessarily, or how do these changes going to help even the fans have a much funner, enjoyable race?
It should be all for the fans. I don't think this benefits necessarily. I could be wrong, but I don't think it benefits a manufacturer per se. What we saw in the middle portions of all the super speedway races have been two lines side by side where two people get out front and just kind of slow everybody down, and everybody just stays in line, and they do that for like 50 laps, 70 laps, whatever. It gets really, really boring. You have no passing. And all of that was designed to save fuel so that they could have shorter or fewer stops on pit road to be able to get out front. NASCAR actually reduced the spoiler. So we have a much shorter spoiler now, as well as less horsepower due to a different sized spacer. So that overall single car will be a little bit faster. So your qualifying speeds will be a little bit faster, but in the draft is still going to be going the same speed, but that fuel difference is not going to be there. So they're going to be able to use more fuel, use more throttle, I should say, while using less fuel because they've got less horsepower. So we shouldn't see that processional 50 to 60 to 70 laps, however many they decide to get out there and just kind of go around in circles. They should be encouraged to use more fuel, use more throttle, and actually make passes and take runs if they get them. So I do think that from a fan perspective, this Saturday night, cooler temperatures too. So they're going to have greater grip than they do during the Daytona 500, which is run during the day. Hopefully we see more passing throughout more portions of the race, whereas the prior super speedway races in the middle got really boring just because all they did was sit in one line.
Okay. Looking forward to it. Don't forget, I will return on Friday night for qualifying. And by the way, do they have practice at Daytona?
No practice this time. That's the last of the changes. So they will go straight into single car qualifying.
Okay. So, yeah. Well, we'll do a show. I'll do a report. I can't say it'll be very long, but that's okay. We'll look at qualifying, and we'll see if anything comes about with it. But as we just went over the qualifying notes in Next Gen, really doesn't matter where you qualify. So, yeah, like I said, it'll probably be a pretty short, but hopefully sweet report. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. Who is the favorite of the race?
Ryan Blaney.
This shouldn't be too difficult.
Really? Why is Byron up there?
Well, he's Mr. 500. So,
okay.
Yeah. But yeah, Blaney still should be Blaney's still the best. We know that. But yeah, Byron's got the 3 wins, a couple of 500s recently. Keep in mind, though, the last 5 Coke 400 races for Byron, he's got an average of 25th, and that's since his Coke 400 win back in 2020. So the 500s, he's had a lot of success at lately with those 2 wins, but not necessarily in this race. Yeah, I mean, based on how he'd been racing lately, I would have thought, all right, he's got wins here. Interesting, but as the favorite, I'm not really sure I'd want to go down that path. But hey, you know what? You never know. He's jonesing for a win, and this is Daytona, and anything can happen. As far as Blaney, keep in mind he's been in 4 wrecks in the last 6 races at Daytona, but he does have a win, and that was in this race last year. He's the defending champ. He's got only 2 Daytona wins, by the way, but we know he is the best right now, pretty much up there. Nobody's better, let's just put it that way. And he wrecked earlier this year. Matter of fact, Blaney and Logano got into an incident. Justin Allgaier started the wreck, and Logano and Blaney were kind of taken out. Blaney was done. Logano still found a way to finish 3rd. So,
yeah,
is this an easy one for you?
Out of these 2, yeah, it's Ryan Blaney, no question. And that's all because of William Byron. We just talked about him before. Able to get out there and lead some laps last week. The conditions kind of helped that. But other than that, he's not been able to do much this season. So I'm still waiting for him to turn it on. Not to say that he can't or won't in these final 10 races. That's usually when he comes on strongly. But if you look at his last 2, just take his last 5 Daytona 500 or Daytona races. Yeah, 2 of them were wins, but the best finish out of the remaining 3 of them was 12th, and that was earlier this year from 39th. So from a finish differential standpoint, if you're looking from a fantasy perspective, the Daytona 500 was good for him. But again, I think probably the Chevrolets and the Hendrick, they're very strong in qualifying. Single car qualifying should be good for them, but I'm not sure that I've seen anything from them necessarily at the speedways this year that's going to make me choose somebody other than Ford and Toyota at this point, let alone William Byron.
Yeah, look, this is important to note. We talk about it as often as possible. Mr. Cole brings up a really good point, and that is anytime you wager on sports books, you really should have 2 minimum. I think 3 is ideal if depending on how much you get involved, because you're always going to get better pricing at sports books. And we talk a lot about, especially DraftKings, they can be very different from the average sports book. Sometimes it's very positive, and sometimes it's like, are you crazy? So that's why you have to, because in one instance, you could say, hey, wait a second, I can get William Byron at another sports book at 16-1. So why would I go to DraftKings? But trust me, if you take a look at, say, another driver or another sport, you'll say, oh, wait a second, wow, I'm getting great odds here at DraftKings compared to the sports book over here that I usually use. So trust me, it can go either way, which is why you should always have 2 or 3 sports books. So thank you very much for reminding everybody, Mr. Cole. And
much better price for what I would expect from Byron this week. Still probably a little bit rich for my blood, given what he's been on, but 16 is certainly better than 9 here.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of these sportsbook odds right now. Like, yeah, and I'm already seeing a big difference, a couple of different ways that are an advantage for DraftKings, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Okay, who's next up?
Probably Hamlin. He's been the other one that's been Mr. Daytona.
It's been a while, though. That's the thing.
It's been a while.
It's been a while for Denny. So, yeah. No Denny. You're not going to see Denny for a while.
Oh,
so
interesting. Then Reddick. Okay.
Yeah, Reddick, who's done nothing at Daytona except steal the 500, and he's just been an awful run right now, is getting almost favorite price at 12-1. He's the same price as Joey Logano, which is real. And I don't even tell you the truth, know what Chase Elliott's doing up here. Christopher Bell even. Well, see, this is why I think this is, yeah.
Three top 5s out of 13 Daytona starts for Christopher Bell, and he's joint second favorite there, or maybe third favorite. No, my goodness.
Yeah, Christopher Bell has a 26.3 average in his last 3 races at Daytona. He wrecked earlier this year, led a few laps, big deal. Elliott, even though he's got 4 top 5s and 2 runner-ups, he's never won a race at Daytona. He was 4th earlier this year, but still, Elliott is going through a bad slump right now. It looks like every once in a while he's going to break out of it, but no, result-wise, no. He's had 1 good result, and that's about it. And then Reddick, yeah. So we just mentioned Reddick too. So he's had some prior top fives, couple of runner-ups, but for the most part, he only look. I think laps led is really an indicator, especially because of the fact that anybody can win a Daytona 500. Anybody can win a Daytona. So anytime you see even good drivers with some top fives, don't look at it as like, oh, well, that's because he's a good driver. Well, maybe it's just because he's lucky. And that's why you got to look at those laps. And Reddick has only led 15 laps in his entire career at Daytona. So, yeah, this is easily Joey Logano in this group. And Logano has just been, I think, again, he's as good as Blaney on these racetracks. He was third earlier this year, as I mentioned. And get this, in his last 15 races, he's led at least one lap in all 15. And he's led at least 11 laps in 11 of the last 15. And he's led 26 or more laps in 8 of his last 15. That's a good Daytona driver. And you're getting a pretty fair price compared to all these other guys. So, yeah, that's an easy one here. I guess the question is, who would be 2?
A couple more points on Joey Logano. He hasn't failed to lead a lap at Daytona since 2018. The last 5 Daytona races, he's started inside the top 10. He's led laps in every single one of them. It's been crashes that have taken him out. And like you said, those laps led count for a lot. He's just got to get to the finish, and he's going to be in contention without a doubt. So from a second choice perspective, I guess I got to go with Christopher Bell, only because he's been, even though he's, he took a dip, I guess, probably the past couple of weeks from what we're used to seeing him do, which are runner-up finishes every single week, but he's still in the top 10. I think he's still banging down the door for a win. He's a pretty good restrictor plate or super speedway racer. So out of the bunch, clearly head and shoulders above everybody else is Joey Logano. But if you forced me to take a second one, it would be Christopher Bell.
Yeah, Bell, still in a run where he has 7 top 10s in his last 8 races. But like you said, the last couple of races, just top 10s. It's all he's had. He hasn't really been effective for battling for a win. But we know he's overdue. He can do it here, just like anybody. Speaking of anybody capable of winning, there's Kyle Larson at 16-1 with Hocevar and Cindric. Now, so I'm okay with Larson getting 16-1. I think he was 12-1 earlier this year at one of these tracks, which was kind of silly. He's actually 22-1 at one of the sports books I just looked at. That's a much better price even. But again, just keep in mind, Larson, even though he has 6 top 10s, has never had a top 5. And that's pretty bad. So we've said our piece with Kyle Larson over the years at the super speedways. Carson Hocevar is another one where I just don't think this makes a lot of sense considering he's in a really bad slump. Average start over 5 cup races is 20.2. Average finish 26.6. He was 18th this year. He's failed to finish 3 out of 5 at Daytona. And then you've got Cindric and Wallace. So Cindric, because of Logano and Blaney, you always have to keep in mind Cindric partners there, so he's going to be dangerous. He has a win. He hasn't been great here. Average start 13.7, average finish 20th, and he's got a 25.8 average in his last 7 races. So that's not very good. 34th this year. I'm sure he was involved in a wreck. But again, you have to take into consideration his teammates. And then Bubba Wallace, this trend of his just keeps going, and it hasn't stopped. So he really should have won the race last week if it wasn't for the 2-tire stop deal. But you just couldn't find a way to get past Blaney. But this is not the week to take him then. And that's unfortunate because Bubba's had some pretty good numbers here, including 3 runner-ups. He's been better average finish to average start by 3 positions. And he was 10th this year from the 27th position, leading 40 laps. but remember, you just follow this trend, and he's been good at some of these other tracks, but the trend says no, and the trend has been right. So the trend says no. That doesn't mean he won't have a top 10. It's just that he was second last week. So he could do anything but top 2, and the trend works. But I think it's still at 19-1. I don't think it's a bad idea to take a look at him. I would either look at Wallace or Cindric this week, but since I'll stay with the trend, I'll probably go with Cindric.
Cindric would be my top choice. And the reason I say that, well, for both of them, Cindric and Wallace are my 2 top choices. Cindric's my top one. But if you look at both of them at Daytona, they've both consistently led laps. There's only been one race in the last 5, I think, that Cindric hasn't led a lap. But specifically for Cindric, he's been on some great form, very quietly good form that has actually moved him into great position for the chase. So he's relatively assured of a spot there, barring some disaster, but he hasn't finished outside of the top 15. I should say he's only finished outside of the top 15 once. If we go all the way back to San Diego, so that's all the way back in June. Every other race since then, except for at Iowa, he's been finishing inside the top 15. Plus you got Logano and Cindric, and we talked about how Team Penske and Ford are looking really strong right now, plus how strong they've been on super speedways since the very beginning of this season. So I think Cindric is a very good choice. Wallace also very, very good, but I've been wrong because I went against that trend, and I'm not going to do it again. So I think we're looking at something worse than a runner-up finish, unfortunately, for Wallace this week. Like you said, it could still be a top 10. But if he finished second last week, there's no way he's finishing first this week.
Yeah, it's crazy. I've never seen anything like it. Okay, so next up, let's go down here. We add in 4 more. Yeah, I mean, out of these 4, there are some pretty good long shots. And now that we're at Daytona, we've got to look for some long shots. So, Briscoe, who doesn't have a great history, but and a matter of fact, in fantasy, he's been really bad. He's lost 59 positions in the last 4 races combined, including 36 this year from the front row, and led 23 laps. But he's been red hot, and I still think it's not bad. 20-1, Briscoe, Toyota, and all that. Now here's the Hamlin thing. So Denny Hamlin, who has 3 wins at Daytona and 11 top 5s and has led almost 700 laps in his career. He is a very good super speedway driver. We know all this, but he's going through, for whatever reason, next gen Daytona has not been kind to Denny Hamlin. He's got an average of 26.8 without a top 15 in the next gen at Daytona. Chris Buescher, though, that is a really good long shot opportunity. He hasn't been going well. That's the only thing that would concern me, but he's got 6 top 10s in his last 7 with 2 top 5s and a win. He was 7th earlier this year from the 41st position. He has gained 51 positions in the last 2 races at Daytona. So I think Buescher is a good play. And even Keselowski, I mean, it's not like he's going well, but he was 5th earlier this year. He's got a Coke win. That's his only Daytona win back in 2016. I just feel a little bit better with Briscoe and Buescher in this group than I do Keselowski.
I don't know. I think Buescher is the top choice, 4 straight top 10s, regardless of where he starts at Daytona. So hands down, top choice out of this group. But I wouldn't feel bad going with Keselowski at all. And I'd put Keselowski probably even ahead of Briscoe, definitely ahead of Hamlin. A top 5, and another top 10 in his last 4. Daytona starts, laps in the fall race in 2024. Keselowski usually tends to be up there as well. Buescher, I think, is the top choice. I'd probably go Keselowski next just because of Ford versus Toyota with Chase Briscoe up there.
Okay, next up, we have a couple of interesting long shots. Ricky Stenhouse has to be one of them at 28-1. He's got 2 wins. He was 2nd this year in the 500. Now, next gen, he's been hit or miss. He has been involved with 6 wrecks in 9 races, but he's got in the 3 races that he has not been involved with a wreck, he's been 1st, 2nd, and 18th. Then you've got Dylan, who has 2 wins as well. But in his last 7 races at Daytona, he's got an average of 29.8 and has lost 80 positions during that stretch. The other 2, Gibbs, we've been, even in the tracks that he hasn't had a lot of history at, we've said, don't, just ignore them. He's just doing so well. And it's been good advice. He's just throwing in top 10s, no matter where he's at. This week, I think, might be a little different. He didn't show anything this year. He hasn't really shown anything ever at Daytona. He's never led a lap. So I'd probably take the week off from Gibbs. But Josh Berry, I would not want to take a week off because he's so hot right now. And he's got back-to-back 9th place finishes at Daytona. And maybe maybe this is what he needs, because I feel a lot better with Josh Berry at 30-1 than because he went down to 7-1 on Saturday night. Remember, we were a little bit surprised that he was 16-1 to start the race, to start the week. He went all the way down to 7-1 on Saturday. Hey, look, he had a great car. He was right there. He was right behind Blaney again for the 2nd straight year. But I just feel a lot better at 30-1, even in a track like Daytona.
Wood Brothers are always strong at Daytona, and that's the car that Josh Berry is still in. What I really like about him, it was last week. He had a good car. Yeah, he had to have that to get up there. But he was making things happen. He was not going to get pushed around. He was making sure that he did absolutely everything to stay up there and get those positions that he needed, and it paid off. And doing that same approach here at Daytona is what wins you races sometimes. So I could see Josh Berry being up there. I would put him as my top choice of this group. After that, I'd probably have a hard time choosing between Stenhouse and Gibbs. Stenhouse, you either go for the win or crash, one or the other. But like you said, Gibbs has been much more reliable this season, throwing in top 10s all the time. Probably go with Stenhouse just because of his ability on restrictor plate races or super speedways in general over his career. Maybe just a very slight edge, but Josh Berry out of this bunch certainly is the choice. I would say he's almost a must pick this week.
Absolutely. By the way, Stenhouse, I believe, was 6th at Talladega this year too. So keep an eye on Stenhouse and Berry. Okay, moving on. Oh, Corey Haim's back in the saddle again. Watch out.
Win a third.
Who knows? Anything is possible. I don't really like this group very much. I might go with Suarez, even though I don't know. Look, I guess I shouldn't worry about Suarez winning a 2nd race when Corey Haim's won 2 races. So I guess I'd go Suarez here, even though Priest has got some momentum coming in. He's got to win. He has Buescher and Keselowski, so we have to keep an eye on that. They're going to try to help him if possible. You would think if they can get in, if that means he can get in to the playoffs. I just don't like his history here. Average start 21.2, average finish 24.3, 25th in the Daytona 500. So he does not have a good history at Daytona, but I guess, look, it's a long shot race. Anything can happen. So realistically, I'd probably go Suarez and Priest. And I don't know. I just don't have a good feeling about Chastain after, again, it's just not his year at this point. Maybe he'll have a better run in the playoffs, but I'm not really interested in Chastain right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's out of the playoffs. Suarez is still in there. So Suarez is going to be fighting for some momentum. Therefore, I think he's the better choice. Priest has not been great at Daytona either. He's going to be having one eye on Shane Van Gisbergen the entire race. And let's see, he's only finished inside the top 15 once since 2023 when he came back full time with Stewart Haas. So I think Priest is fighting an uphill battle. I think he's got other things on his mind. I don't like this group at all. If I have to choose one, it's going to be Suarez, though.
Moving on. Okay. So some interesting long shots here. Bowman, look, it's a luck race, so maybe he needs a little luck, get a victory. Couple top fives in his career here. That's about it. That's not very good in 20 races. 40th involved in a crash earlier this year. Jones, not the worst idea. Jones has got the win in the 400 in 2018. A couple other top fives. Average is 12.6 in his last 5 at Daytona, and he's gained 42 spots during that stretch. So 21st earlier this year from the 24th position. And then you have Gilliland. I don't see at all. He hasn't finished 6 of 9 races at Daytona, so not interested. McDowell's got the win in the 21 Daytona 500. A couple other top fives. Led 10 laps earlier this year from the 10th position. Finished 22nd. It's a big number. Don't understand why McDowell is 55 and Gilliland is 45. I don't know what the hell that's about. But yeah, I mean, there's some options. I might actually go Jones, then McDowell, and then Bowman.
Yeah, I'm the same. I put Jones at the top just because Legacy Motor Club has stepped it up at the super speedways. Eric Jones, I don't think got the finish that he was warranted in the Daytona 500. If you look back to this race last year, he was 5th and he led 10 laps. And then continuing on the theme of leading laps, that brings us to Michael McDowell, which would make him my second choice out of the bunch because he has led laps at Daytona in every one of the last 5 races at the track. So I think Jones just has a little bit more potential in his car than maybe Michael McDowell does. Those would be the 2 that I would choose out of this group.
Okay, move on over. SVG, he hasn't shown anything at Daytona yet. Zane Smith, you're looking for a lucky win. I think Zane Smith is definitely got to be up there. Driving a Ford, finished 6th this year from the 30th position, led 9 laps. Austin Hill, we're still waiting to see the Austin Hill from the O'Reilly Super Speedways. He's got 11 wins across the 3 tracks in the O'Reilly series. So, and Kyle Busch actually had a pretty good race in the Daytona 500. So, Riley Herbst, another long shot you might want to keep an eye on. Herbst was 8th in the 500 and 8th in this race last year. So I think that's the case. I think he's got back-to-back 8th place finishes here.
Yeah, I think Herbst has stepped it up. This is one of the tracks where he's actually done pretty well at. Austin Hill, I'm going to wait until the Austin Hill from O'Reilly makes himself felt at these tracks in the Cup Series. Hopefully that's this weekend for him. They did just announce that he is going to be full-time in that car starting next year. So he's going to have a little bit more time to get settled and figure things out. And hopefully in the next couple of super speedway races, we see that Austin Hill coming up because it'd be nice to see him at the front, somebody new. Mixing it up with all the guys like Blaney and Logano and others up front. But I think out of this group, Zane Smith is going to be my top choice. He started 30th in the Daytona 500, finished 6th, led 9 laps. His first 3 starts at Daytona were all 13th place finishes. Doesn't seem to matter where he starts. He's able to find his way to the front and really able to work his way through traffic here and keep his nose clean. So Zane Smith would be a really cool outside long shot win for this weekend.
Yeah, Herbst actually was only 8th in the Daytona 500 this year, not last year's race. But if you take a look at Herbst in his career in the O'Reilly Series, he's had some good results on super speedways. Okay. Now we get to one of my better long shot picks of the year, even though we did not win. On the show on Saturday, I put Noah Gragson in my driver lineup, and he went ahead and not disappoint, finishing 10th. And I think he was about only 5,600, the salary cap on him. It's going to be the same kind of salary cap number this week. So I'd go right back to him. He gets his contract, and all of a sudden, peace of mind. In his last 3 races has been the best 3-race stretch of his season. He was 10th last week and 18th and 17th before that. He has one top 5 at the Daytona in 8 races. He was 11th this year from the 25th position and has Talladega and Daytona wins in the O'Reilly series. So maybe, maybe they've started to find something finally with Noah Gragson. And the only other one I would look at in this group is probably AJ, just because he does have some career numbers. It's been over 40 races, but he has 8 top 10s and 3 top 5s over his career. So he has had some success at Daytona, but Gregson's definitely the one that sticks out for me here.
Yeah, Gregson had a great race last week, exactly like you said. Smart move to put him in. He's always been good at the super speedways, and unlike Austin Hill, he's been showing that from the get-go. So I think these tracks are ones where Gregson should be punching above his weight. He's coming into the weekend with momentum, so hopefully he's up there again. Just got to stay out of trouble. And then you're right, I think AJ Allmendinger is probably the next best choice here. 3 top 5s, 8 top 10s from 25 Daytona starts. He actually led 1 lap in the Daytona 500 and finished 19th despite starting 35th. So AJ Allmendinger can also race with these guys at these tracks too.
And then those are the drivers that round out the field in the Daytona 400, the Coke Zero Sugar Race. Okay, so I believe I have the first pick.
You are first this week. Yep.
So then I have to decide amongst, I guess, the Penske brothers.
That's who I'm choosing. So whichever one you take, I'm taking the other.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll go with my boy Ryan Blaney. I know it's not easy to win back-to-back, but I'll take Ryan Blaney.
I will take Joey Logano then.
Okay, that's not a surprise that we went with the Penske boys. What did we do this year? Let me see. Our picks in the 500. Let's see what they were. Oh, guess what our picks were in the 500?
Blaney and Logano.
Yes.
I am not surprised. One.
Yeah. Okay. So let me see. Next pick. I'm gonna go with Josh Berry.
That's a good one. So what were Buescher's odds?
He is 22 to 1, I believe.
And Cindric was lower, correct?
16 to 1.
Oof. I'll take Cindric as my second choice. I wouldn't want to go that high normally, but there are too far down. I don't want to price myself out of one of my long shots.
All right. And that, let's see. I will then. Yeah, Buescher 22 to 1 is. Yeah, I think I'd rather just go for it. So let me go with. I mean, I got so many long shots to choose from, deep long shots. I guess the 2 biggest long shots that I could choose from would be Zane Smith and Noah Gragson. You know what? I'll be crazy and I'll go Noah Gragson.
Oh man, you make it hard for me now because I was expecting you to go with Zane and then I was going to take Keselowski. So now it's between Keselowski and Zane, or even Buescher, I guess. But
yeah. I mean, Buescher basically you could still make $100 on Buescher, or I'll go for it with Zane. Either way,
I'm going to go for it. Daytona can be crazy. Let's go with Zane Smith.
Yeah, that's why I did Gragson. Just go for it. Hey, we got $2,000 to screw around with. It's Daytona, so let's have some fun here. Yeah, other ones obviously you got Buescher, Keselowski, Stenhouse, Suarez, Jones, McDowell, and then up front a little bit more, Briscoe, Wallace possibilities. So always a lot to choose from at Daytona. Very difficult. but we'll see. That's why another reason why you can go with some of these long shots, because we've picked Logano and Blaney up front. So we've got, and it's good to have the favorites of the race at these prices. So because last week Blaney was 2-1.
Yep, exactly right.
And and again, even at a sports book, you can get Blaney at 11, and Logano is still at the same price, basically. I think, what was he in here? 11. Yeah, basically the same price. Yeah. Oh, and where you could actually get a better number at draft. Better number at DraftKings. Let's see who was. I think who looks better here. Let's see. Priest. You can get a better number. Gilliland.
Oh.
Yeah, I know, right? There are a few. Bowman.
All the ones you don't want, you can get.
Yeah, right. Hocevar. Reddick. No, not Reddick. Reddick's the other way. Hamlin, you get a better price. And Busher.
Oh,
Busher's 16-1 at the sportsbook.
Yeah, definitely go there then.
Yeah, Wallace also 16-1. So again, you can get better numbers. You just have to do the shopping. Okay, so again, I'll be back on Friday night to do a condensed report after qualifying, and then the big race on Saturday night to end the regular season. And then the regular season comes to an end. The playoffs begin, and it begins with Darlington. So we go Darlington, and then unfortunately, I guess Illinois. I don't remember good things at Illinois.
Nope. Another flat oval. So more of 2-tire stop. Whoever's off pit road first and the last stop's probably going to win that one.
Oh, that's fun. Reddick earlier this year won at Darlington. So we'll see a completely different driver now. That is for sure than what we saw earlier this year. Kozlowski was actually second. Kozlowski won both stages and finished second at Darlington.
It's a great track for him.
So he might be an interesting long shot from earlier this year based on those numbers. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up. We'll get into the postseason, and then when we do our show, we're back on Tuesday at 4:00. And when we do the show, we will go over our playoff predictions. So we'll have a kind of combo deal, our playoff predictions, as well as our race analysis with Darlington. So CJ, appreciate it. As always, don't forget links right now in the description area of this video where you can check out and bookmark CJ's work over at RotoWire. And then his race report comes out on Friday, the same day where I'll be doing the report on Friday night. And so we'll remind you, you can check it out. What time do you usually have that report come out, posted?
I try to get it out as early as possible. Realistically, it's sometime mid-afternoon.
Okay. So it'll definitely be out before we go on the air on Friday, but I'll remind you about it on that show. And then again, we'll see you back on Tuesday, regular schedule for the playoff coverage of NASCAR 2026. So CJ, I'll see you next week.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
All right. And thanks for everybody out there listening. Thanks for Mr. Cole for reminding us that you can go shopping.